Hi, and welcome to 1000 Ant, where we give you devlogs, Unity tutorials, and indie game dev advice. My name is Matt Schell, and in this video, I want to pose a kind of a provocation, maybe a little bit of a provocative question to start a conversation here in the comments and in the 1000 Ant Discord around, are we making indie games as a hobby, or are we doing it as a business? Let's get started. So this question kind of came up in my mind from a couple of different directions. I have been thinking about my Untitled Cute Space game. I published a devlog about that, about how I'm thinking about taking it towards an idle clicker format, which will be interesting. We'll see how that goes. And in the process of researching that, I took a look around the internet to see if somebody had published an idle clicker framework that I liked the look of. I actually found one on Reddit. I'm going to look at it and evaluate it. Maybe I'll do a video about it if it looks cool and worth sharing. And this kind of brought me to this question of using assets, integrating other people's tools and frameworks into our game versus writing it from scratch ourselves. My gut instinct is that I kind of wanted to sit down and program this thing myself. And then I had to kind of question that. Like, well, if there's something that looks pretty good, should I really be putting my energy into this? And then this kind of brought me around to this question of, why am I doing this at all? Am I doing this because it's fun, or am I doing this because I want to kind of be efficient and create something that's going to be profitable? This brings us to the central question, which is, are we making indie games as a business or as a hobby, right? This was kind of crystallized for me by a book that I'm reading by David C. Baker called The Business of Expertise. I was reading it in the context of our business at 1000 Ant, where we run a technical marketing agency and create content and demos for our clients, people like Unity and Gamedev and Microsoft. And this is relevant, right? Because our work at 1000 Ant is actually what pays for the work that we do on this YouTube channel. It pays for my indie game development efforts, right? And it's a profitable, real business, right? And we run it in such a way that it's effective and that it makes money and that our clients are happy and we do good work. And it allows us to do some of these other things that we want to do, like, for example, making these videos or working on my games. My indie game practice actually, for me, and this was a little bit of a hard thing to admit, it's a hobby. I don't actually turn a profit on the amount of time that I spend on tinkering with my indie games and being creative and expressing myself. It gives me a lot of joy. It gives me a lot of happiness. I kind of refresh and recharge doing it, but it's not profitable. I have other ways, like the business at 1000 Ant, where I can make money, or I've also worked, I used to work for Unity as a corporate job. I've worked as a freelance person in different capacities, right? So I know how to go out and make money, and making indie games, for me, the amount of time and effort that I put into it does not match up to the amount of money that comes back, right? So for me, I kind of have that answer. And to be honest, it's a little bit of an uncomfortable answer, right? I want to think of myself as a professional indie game developer, but the truth is, I lose money on it, right? So it's actually a hobby. I bankroll my indie game development through my other work. And so, and fundamentally, I don't do it because I think it's a good way to make money. I do it because it's creative and expressive and it fills me with joy. And I think this is an important question for all of us to answer about our indie game practice, right? And maybe just our general creative practice is this something that is fundamentally about making money and specifically being profitable, right? That's really the key marker of an enterprise, right? Is that it's profitable. If you have something that you love doing and maybe you squeak by or even break even or lose money on, really that's either a job or a hobby, right? It's not actually a business. And I think this is an important concept for us to understand, because maybe it makes it easier for us to make some of the other decisions. If I'm kind of wrestling with myself of, should I kind of be merciless and say, no, I'm going to reuse as many assets as I can and get as many pre-existing frameworks as I can, even if that makes the project less fun for me, because I'm going to do that because I want to be efficient and make the game quickly and put it out and sell it and make money. Well, if this was my primary business and my primary means of sustaining myself, that would be the smart thing to do. Since it's more of a hobby project and it's more of something that I do because I enjoy writing code, and there's a lot of other kind of tangential benefits and reasons that it's good for me to do, but fundamentally I'm not doing it in the kind of pursuit of earning a profit, right? Which in the context of business is really the goal, right? The work that we do at Thousand Ant, we do a great job, our clients are happy, and we generate a profit, and that's the point, right? And so I think that getting clear about that in your mind is a good exercise. And I'm really not trying to, or maybe you can see I'm kind of putting a little bit of a value judgment, and maybe society puts a little bit of a value judgment on the idea of we're spending all this time making indie games in an unprofitable way, and therefore it's a hobby, and maybe we respect that a little bit less, right? Maybe we want to see ourselves as serious professionals, but then I would challenge that to say, well, then maybe you should be operating a little bit differently. So I'm not really here to answer this question more than just to pose it and to think about it together, in the comments, in the Thousand Ant Discord. I'd love to take this discussion further because I think it's pretty interesting, and maybe it'll help some of us to get clarity, right? To say, well, you know what, really, this is a hobby, and really, this relates right to the question of making your own game engine. Probably that's not commercially viable unless your game engine needs to do something really exotic, but maybe you just feel passionate and you're learning and you love it and it's great. But let's be clear then, that's a hobby, right? You're doing it because it's fun and you're learning and it's great. And I think there's interesting areas like open source projects. How does that fit into this framework, right? There, long-term research or things like that, right? I think this is not a black and white thing, and there's a lot of edge and corner cases that make it interesting to discuss. But I do think this idea of saying a hobby is something that's unprofitable, that loses money, and a business or an enterprise is something that is strictly governed by the need to make profits, and kind of holding those two up as a mirror and saying, which one am I doing? And using that as a framework maybe to simplify your decision making, I think is interesting, right? So I wanted to pose that question. I look forward to hearing your responses. Give the video a like if you're enjoying this type of video. It gives us a signal to say, yeah, make more of this. It also helps other people to find it via the algorithm. If you're enjoying the content, please do consider subscribing. We appreciate that very much. It helps us to see that the channel is adding value and growing. And as always, I just really appreciate your spending a little bit of your time. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.